Hey guys, incredible to meet you. Thank you so much for doing Streaming for Vengeance. Please meet Susie and Scott from Breed of Aggression. And oh my God, it's such a mean name and a mean album and a mean presence. But hey, you're with us and it's a beautiful thing. So let's talk about this new record.
Right on.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having us. This is going to be great.
Yep. We appreciate you.
Excited. Very much.
This is a beast of an album, but I will say the album name and band name, like obviously there's anger that has to get out and the whole world is angry, but to have an album and a band name being so, I'm not saying you're angry, but you know what I mean? Please explain that whole, I don't know, like the emotions around creating something like this during COVID.
Well, during Susie and I's conversations in the beginning of this, thinking of that name, you know, you listen to the music itself, it's very aggressive. A lot of it I had in mind to kind of come out with a very powerful, you know, kind of a Judas Priest feel when I started writing this stuff, because I've always been influenced by bands like that. But I kind of wanted to bring that metal thing in there. Like some of it, if you listen to it, it almost has that Machine Head kind of, you know, kind of growl to it, you know. And then Susie came in with her powerful vocals, and I'm like, you know, we thought of names back and forth. I think her and I wrote a list of like 30, 40 names, and we didn't like none of them, if I recall right. And then finally, we just kind of ran into that just by mixing and matching names, and it fit the music. The music is a very powerful, aggressive feel. And so I've always been more leaning towards the heavy metal, aggressive side of music, even in my rock stuff that I do with other players. I've always been a very attacky player. And her voice fits it perfectly, that album.
Yeah, it's like a match made in heaven, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Now, tell me about the freedom of working as a two-piece and building and creating.
No drama. I could start there. Her and I make all the decisions together of where it's going. We work well. We don't argue. We talk well. It's simple. It's very
well,
simple.
we're both professional too. Like coming into it, just with years behind us, we know what we're doing, and we know we've been there. We've been through the, you know, egos, playing with people with the egos, and it's much easier when you just work together and be respectful. And I think that's what we were. I mean,
absolutely.
I respected the music that Scott made, and it was easy.
You guys make a lot of noise for a two-piece.
Yeah.
Noise as a compliment.
Thank you. Yeah, we a lot of that came from my messed up brain. I could sit here. I work in the studio a lot with more than just Breed of Aggression. I write with several other artists. This right here was something that I wanted to put out there, but then I mean I'm already loving what we've done so much together that I want to do another album, but I wanted to kind of do it this time with a full band. And I think we've got our people picked out just fine. They're all good people, and they're all like-minded, I should say. Mm-hmm. There's no drama. It's just not allowed. Rule number one for me is if you're not a good guy, we're not working together.
How would you describe your working relationship then?
With Susie?
Yeah.
Epic. It's great. Not a damn problem at all. We just talk back and forth, and and if there's a disagreement, we always come to an agreement. It's not even, there's never been any disagreement, really. We just talk.
Honestly, yeah, we've only been in the same room once. Everything that we did on this album was done, you know, over text, over email, phone calls. So yeah, I think that helps a little bit. The only thing is, like, when you're texting, you lose some of that communication and emphasis, but it was fine. Yeah.
100% of the creativity on the vocals that came out of Susie, man. That was all her. And the music just brought that out of her. So it was kind of like we combined forces, and it just came together like two peas in a pod in a sense. So,
but like as musicians being locked up for like a year and a half, like how did that affect you mentally?
Oh, I hated it.
I hated it too. I wrote a lot of music, man. I did play live some towards the end of that stuff. I had my Pantera tribute Domination I played with, and I was able to get out and play some shows with that. And Susie did some too, I believe, right?
I didn't actually. I did one this past weekend. It was the first one that I had done in a year, almost 2 years.
What a relief, huh? Yeah,
you know,
nice.
it was horrible actually, because I lost motivation. I loved being out and seeing bands, and a lot of times seeing other bands is what motivates me, you know, to go and I want to play. So I missed that, and I felt myself getting depressed about it, and I just didn't have the motivation to do it. I did, you know, but yeah, I didn't like COVID at all for that.
Yeah, it does. It kind of takes the wind out of your sails, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Susie, you're next, but Scott, I talked to Gary Holt a couple of days ago about the new Exodus record, and
cool.
asking one of the greatest riff like musicians on the planet, like what would he do like for like a year and a half being locked in a house. And it was the dumbest question, but what did you do for a year and a half as a guitar player when you couldn't do anything? You couldn't leave or travel or whatever.
Well, what I did is I focused all my energy, believe it or not, a lot of it into my studio. I focused on, I do a lot of my spare time. I actually write way too much music. I could sit there and just write music. I could be in a room. My wife's actually walked down and like, dude, go to bed. You know, I'm like, I'll be up till 4 a.m. If I got a hook or an idea, sometimes songs don't write themselves, but some do. And then when I get on that thing where this is going to be good, I won't stop. I'll go all night. I mean, I can tell it's done. I'm like obsessed with it or something. And it's almost like an illness. I have to finish what I start. And that's what I did a lot. I wrote several songs, and I'm actually still writing some songs I actually wrote another album with Vante, my other band, with the bass player from Steelheart is a guest on there on 3 songs and helped write. I also focused on, we have the drummer from the Blue Man Group, Jeff Tatora, wonderful drummer. And Chris Moore, who played with George Lynch's other band. I got a really funny name. Corey Glover from Living Colour played in that band too.
Yep. Okay.
And Chris Moore is a hell of a drummer too. Oh my God. I mean, him and Jeff are just 2 beast drummers. And the bass player, Rev Jones, I was a guest on his album. So I recorded that solo for him on his new album. Absolutely great album. The drummer from Racer X, or Badlands, I should say, and he sang for Racer X, played on that. Did that. Also, I'm writing some new music with, I don't know if I'm supposed to let the secret out. Tony Martin and I are doing that album. It's coming out January. I'm sure you're well aware of that. From Black Sabbath. We're going to do another vinyl album release later down the road, about 8 months. And so we were going to just do like a vinyl version of it, but we couldn't because you had to remove 2 songs. And we're like, that's cheating the fans. We just didn't see the good in that. And Tony's thoughts were, let's just do 4 more songs and make a double album out of it. And it'll only be on vinyl. And so I'm working on that too. So that's the stuff.
You're getting way ahead of my questions here, but
I probably am. Sorry.
Susie, like your vocals are insane.
Oh,
they
yeah.
really are, because I will say really bluntly, like half the time when I get delivered like a female fronted album, it's all these death growls, and you aren't deathly at all.
Thank God.
Thank you.
It's all these soaring, beautiful, just like Halford, Dio, Dickinson-esque. You know what I mean? It's still really powerful, but you don't need the Cookie Monster. Why?
It's not me. What I did on this album was, well, let me back up a little bit. So I've been in several cover bands over the years, and I've been able to try my voice out in different ways. And I recently, well, not recently, 2016, I joined a metal cover band, and we do Priest and Maiden and Dio. And so as soon as I started singing that stuff, it was like, yes, I can, this is really where I fit. And this is where I excel. And this is what I enjoy. You know, that's the release that gets the release out. But then we started doing some other stuff. Like we did You Were the King by Atreyu, and there's some growly stuff in there. And I didn't enjoy it as much. We did the Dimmu Borgir version of Burn in Hell from Twisted Sister.
Yes.
And and you know, singing like him was interesting to me. And so trying that out, I had that same rush of, I love this, I love doing this. So when it came to doing our album, I took all these influences and things that really spoke to me, and that's what came out.
Well, don't take any offense to this. And this is just coming off the top of my head. It's kind of like when Ripper stepped into Halford's shoes to do Priest stuff, right? Do you relate to that, like that kind of like walking into this iconic world with your voice?
Not at all. Actually, I don't. To me, the only one that is, to me, what I hear, the only one that's priesty is Unmasked. Everything else to me I don't even hear that. It's Breed of Aggression. So no, not at all.
Can I bring up another
like
name?
Me.
Can I bring up another name? Because another band from yesteryear was Fear of God, Don Crosby. I thought that was like when I heard what you brought to me, I thought, my God, Fear of God, Don Crosby, no death growl, just like this aggression, just kind of witchery. Like This Is My War was like more witchy than anything.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I'm glad you think of it that way. Tim, you would know, you love metal, bro.
Well, I run a metal site, so I've got to.
Hearing that from you means a lot, though. I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Well, and even Drain STH kind of came into play, but like your pipes are just like, wow.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Drain STH. I love them, and
so do
I did love them, like, you know, back in the day. And a lot of that aggressive girl stuff from the 90s was really influential on me, like the Riot Girl movement and bands like Drain STH. There were a couple other bands that I really liked. Skew Siskin, I don't know if you've heard of them, but Nina Alice has like that really raspy, and I loved singing that stuff too. So they were all very influential. So cool. Thank you. I love that.
But you're like, you guys are like taking this to another level. So tell me about, like, what does Dark Star actually, like the label, bring to you guys?
A lot of support. I'm dear friends with Lloyd. Is not only like the co-conspirator with Jeff, but he's a very dear friend of mine, and like a brother, in fact. He found me in a club playing in my Pantera tribute, just to keep a long story short. And I was like I went through a thing with another member and another band, and I was kind of like just over the whole idea. I'm like, I'm done with this kind of thing. I'm going to stop writing with a bunch. I'm just going to focus on other things. And he's like, dude, you have a gift at writing music. You should probably do this. And he tried to bring me on. Then it kind of went from there and kind of boiled up into, I released Brutal Intentions, my first solo album. Then after that was this album. Here I go answering a long question again. So there's just a lot to say with all that. You know what I mean? Lloyd and Jeffrey approached me after they heard Susie, and they were like, wow, man, she stands out. And I'm like, what do you mean stands out? They're like, dude, she stands out like powerfully. We need to do something with this. And they've been nothing but 100% supportive of her and myself to put this together. And yes, we are working on putting a band together to perform this. So this is just the beginning of Breed of Aggression. It's going to grow like a tree. It's going to be great.
Susie, I'm in my mid 50s, and BraveWords has been like almost like 30 years progressing. And I love the fact that we kind of like appreciate like the roots of hard rock and heavy metal, whether it be the Who or the Beatles or Heart or whatever. So tell me about like the female influences on you, like whether it be Janis Joplin or Chrissie Hynde, or like does any of that stuff resonate, and how does that bring you to now?
Very much, very much. I come from a musical family, and so my dad likes female vocals, and so he liked Heart, he liked Melissa Etheridge, and he still does. So I grew up listening to those bands, and like I remember when I was a kid, we'd watch the Barbara Mandrell show and Lawrence Welk at my grandparents' house, you know. So I was around it. And then as I got a little older, Cyndi Lauper was like a big influence because she just stood out, you know, and she was different. She wasn't trying to be all, you know, pretty, and she was just cool in herself. So seeing that, like that influence was big on who I am. And then as I grew, I just stuck with that. So as I was saying earlier, you know, the Riot Girl, you know, Al Sevens and bands like Four Non Blondes, just at that time were just cool and different. And I wanted that. Shania Salt from White Zombie, huge fan of her. So as I grew, I just kept kind of going toward that idea, even though I loved bands like or artists like Lita Ford and Vixen. It didn't resonate with me the way that they were. I love their music, but I didn't connect with it as much as I did these others. So it's just been wonderful to be, you know, a teenager in the 90s and see where women in music were then, and now see how much from every side, from the backside, the sound girls, and the instrument makers and instrument company owners, and just women have taken over all parts of the musical industry, and being a part of that has been amazing. And it's there every day. I support female music, and it's wonderful. I'm happy to have grown up like through this.
Can you remember a time when some wanker just said to you that chicks just can't rock?
A time? No, lots of times. Lots of times. And lots of babies and yeah. What's that?
I can imagine that wasn't a good argument with you.
You know, it's impossible to argue with people that are like that. And all I can do is just say, okay, and then get up on stage and show them that chicks can rock. You know, it's better to not to argue. It's better to just show. That's what I think of it.
I agree with all of that.
Can I kind of revert to the whole Tony Martin thing? Scott,
yes, sir.
Do you mind, Susie, if I
No, do it. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
it's awesome.
Actually, you know what? This is the best question because it's not at him, it's at you. What does Tony Martin mean to you?
You know, he's
me. Okay.
Me? Yeah, right.
Okay, to Susie.
Tony Martin is amazing. I'm happy that I get to kind of be in the peripheral of his world. You know, he's one of the greatest. I think he's a great performer. He's a great singer. I don't know. It's great.
Well, you know what? I didn't think I'd bring you into this conversation, but I love the fact that I do because I don't know. He had some big, like, there's a lot of people that have replaced singers. You look at maybe Brian Johnson and Sammy Hagar, but like Tony Martin had to fill not just 2 shoes, 4 shoes.
Oh yeah.
Right, Scott? Like,
yes, sir. Yep.
And it takes some mean, I was going to say motherfucker, but like just some mean, like someone that has the stamina and the confidence to say, you know what, fuck it. Just as you just said, Susie, it's like, fuck everything. I'm going to show you my goods. That's all I can do.
Some big cojones, man. That's for sure. You know?
So what was your first connection with Tony then?
Oh, well, that's a logical question. How Tony and I met, believe it or not, it explains it even on the album coming out a little bit, which is wonderful. Him and I met on social media. I seen a guy on there that was bald, had these cat eyes, almost had glasses and a little goatee, black leather jacket on. And again, I was looking for a singer for some music I wrote. And I was still pretty early in the producer stage. I was still learning a lot about how to, you know, record and make it sound really cool, you know. But I wrote a bunch of music and it sounded listenable. The idea was there. So I go, you know, I sent him a message on social media. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a vocalist. You're Vocalist England. Here's the funny part. I didn't read his bio. I didn't even know who this guy was. I just knew it was a guy named Tony Martin. I didn't even know Tony Martin at this level. So he goes, yeah, mate, send it over. So I send the songs over. He sends back our title track. Well, one of our strongest songs on the album. It's the first song on the new album. And I listened to this song and I'm like, wow, who is this guy? And I couldn't believe how good it was. So I start reading the bio. Tony Martin sang for Black Sabbath for 10 years or whatever, and 6 albums. And I'm like, did I just record with the singer of Black Sabbath and not know it? It's hilarious how that happened, because you don't run into things like that very often. Lucky me on that one, because, you know, he goes, send some more songs over. He must have been on like a down period between projects or whatever. He had a lot of commitments going on at that time. And this is quite a few years ago. We're talking 8 to 10 years. And so he says, send over more material. Of course, Tony's one who likes to analyze things and work things out in his own way. And he sent over more material. We didn't use some, but every time he sent it back, it was absolutely amazing. And I'm like, I can't believe this guy likes the stuff that I'm writing, because of where he comes from, of course, right? So I'm thinking, you know, this guy's played with one of the most iconic, you know, metal bands of all time, the creators of it. And him to even look at what I'm doing was very humbling, is the best way I can describe it. Very.
And well, I'm actually taken aback by the fact that you weren't really aware of his presence in the whole Black Sabbath, like arguably, aside from maybe Led Zeppelin, or like that's the band to follow if you're a metal band, if you're a metal fan. That's the whole world. That's your world. That's my world, but that's not your world.
Yeah. to answer you on that, Tim, I was in a total different headspace back then. I mean, I was just coming out of like the whole Pantera movement. So everything else just didn't matter at that point. I mean, because I was all about, okay, I want to play guitar like a madman, like Dimebag. My head was just totally there. And Machine Head, bands like that. I wasn't going back to the iconic old metal bands at that point, but I did. However, I heard Headless Cross, and when I heard that he sang that, I'm like, that's you? I'm like, wow, you know? So like you said, I should have been following that stuff. I agree, but I was at Mr. Pantera mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what? I apologize because I guess my age is creeping in because I'm in my mid 50s and I grew up with all this stuff. I also grew up with Pantera and everything. But I will say one thing: you are in this this world where fans are totally excited about the fact that like there's a new Tony Martin record, and I know COVID has fucked it up big time, but the fact that this voice is going to be like, you know what I mean? We know what Ozzy's doing. Dio, rest in peace.
Oh,
but
definitely.
But the fact that there's like some kind of new that it's really interesting. Yeah. There are metal fans and there are Aussie fans. You know what I mean? Like but there are a ton of Tony Martin fans, and you're part of that next. Like the world is good. Like the world right now is like, my God, we can't wait, and you're part of that. I can't wait.
That it's a pretty, for the longest time, Tim.
The pressure's on you.
I did not really understand all that when it was happening, because honestly, the approach I took, Tim, with this is that I need to go in this with an open mind, be extremely humble, and you can't let a thing like this get to you. You got to really just focus on the art, if you know what I mean. As I worked with Tony, I asked him, I go, what type of thing do you want me to do? He goes, just do you. Like, I got no direction from him how to write that stuff. He doesn't work that way. He wanted me to be me. And from a guy like that, letting me just do what I do, and other guys worked with him and have tried to work with him in the past. Yeah, that's pretty humbling, Tim, that he was looking at what I do. And to look at something like this, to work with a person of his caliber, I should say, is extremely just humbling as hell. I don't know how else to put it to you. I can't let a thing like this. Trust me, Facebook, the ads have been coming in pretty strong. And I was warned by him about this, that, hey, you're going to see a lot of things change in the media and the press, and you're going to have a lot of people recognize you that didn't before. And I'm like, okay, and I take it as it comes, and I'm just polite. I'm always going to be a nice guy. I just think it's just easier to be that way. And I'm learning in the music business, the nicer you are, the more friends you make. And it's just so much easier to get along with everybody that way. And it's a small world. It's a lot smaller than I thought when it comes to this whole thing, with all the artists, and you meet these other folks that I've met. And thanks to Tony's influence, me working with him, I think it's helped me work with other great artists. So, yeah.
And
very
not
humble.
Not that I'm trying to walk in your shoes or kind of relate to what you're like. I've been in this business for a long time, and I've learned one thing. It's like, just don't be the shy boy. Just walk, like, you know what I mean? Just like walk with the presence, and just like, you know what I mean? Do your job. We're all people. We're all humans.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah, of course we're talking to legends. And the times that I've met Ozzy, I just try to just let that go, and and he said, hello, sir. And I'm on hello, sir. Like it really is surreal, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I flew to England and met him. I mean, of course I was doing some nail biting on the plane before I got there. No lies. I'm thinking I'm going to meet this dude in Black Sabbath to record with him. And there was some other iconic situations I didn't even realize happening around me. And I gotta remember the guy's name. I almost feel rude. He's a famous producer that's worked with Black Sabbath left and right. Long black hair guy, beard. He was in that video with Ian Gillan, where they and Tony Iommi, they did the remake of Smoke on the Water. You ever see that video?
Yep.
That guy with the hair behind the board, Mike, I think his name's Mike, and super nice guy. So him and a guy named Baz Bayless, I was over at Warwick, England. And it's a beautiful studio out on a farm in England. I cannot tell you the beauty I've seen there. I'd go back to England 100 times if I could, just because of the history. Tony was the best tour guide and friend you could ask for. I felt right at home. Wonderful man. Beautiful family. Very welcoming. Americans can learn a lot from how polite they are over there.
What kind of memories has he talked to you about his whole Black Sabbath thing?
Oh yeah, I got some stories there. Yeah, I mean, we were going to the motel that I was staying in, and there's a big long hallway, and I was in Solihull, England. We go up the stairs, and of course, I looked over and seen a bar. I'm like, we're good. So anyway, we go up there. And he's like, look down this hallway. I'm like, what's up with that? And he's like, well, there was a story I just remembered I got from one of the guys, like the managers or their promoter or something, that kind of kept an eye on the Oz back in the day. And he says, I guess that some about Ozzy was shooting fireworks all wasted or something down this hallway. And, of course, the cops get called and everything. And he's got like those, like, what do they call it, Roman candles or something?
Yeah.
Firing them down a hallway in the motel. Like, screw everybody. I'll do what I fucking want, and it's typical Ozzy, which is really awesome. Great rock and roll story, man. And I guess the guy, his promoter or whoever, the police got called. He's like, take him to jail. I guess he was pretty wasted, having a good time. And they're like, we can't take him to jail. He didn't really break any laws, it's just minor shit. And he's like, dude, take him to jail. I'll pay you. It got pretty crazy. Like, they made him take him to jail, like talked him into it, like kind of let him sleep it off overnight kind of thing. That was a pretty crazy story, if you ask me. That sounds like a typical story you would hear about somebody like Ozzy, which wasn't a bad thing. It was him just doing what he does, man. And I respect that. I really do.
Well, most of these bands don't even remember a bloody thing what went on back in the 70s or the 80s, right? So
that's what's cool about it, though.
So let me finish off with, if you don't mind, like a Black Sabbath thing. If what would be your funeral song for Black Sabbath? And ladies first, Susie.
A funeral song, like at my funeral?
Yes.
Oh. Can we do ladies last? So I can think about it.
You have to go listen to something? I'm joking.
No, I gotta think. There's so many songs.
This is the Electric Funeral.
Well, you know what? My favorite is Children of the Grave. So I'm gonna go with that.
All right.
It's Grave.
You asking me, Tam, if I picked a song to play at my funeral by Black Sabbath?
Yeah.
Honestly, remember I told you I met Tony, didn't know a lot about his history. After working with him, of course, you want to get to know an artist, right? So I went through his whole catalog and I listened to everything, and I was absolutely freaking mind blown. And that's where I think people missed out on, a lot of guys like me, or there's many of them in America that didn't catch on to the whole Tony thing because of whatever happened and why. But the true Sabbath fans like you, bro, knew. But the song that I found, there's a couple of them. It's really, you just want me to pick one, right?
No, pick whatever you want. It's all good.
Dude, I found one I asked him about while we were driving in the vehicle, because it was something about the title, Rusty Angels. And I'm like, what did you write that about? Because that's just really cool. He goes, I was in a graveyard, and you know those angels that like they're all rusty from the rain hitting them and they're on a grave. And he goes, I wrote it about them. And I'm like, that is really freaking cool just to understand that. Now, if I had to pick my favorite that I've heard him sing on is Anno Mundi. I would pick that.
Nice. Nice.
Great song.
I have to ask this before I let you go, because the whole theme of Thorns, and you have to describe what this new record sounds like for fans.
Oh,
without Tony kicking our asses.
Yeah, I need to be careful because it's not out yet. So
yep. No, I get it. I get it. It's all good.
The theme of it is, you know, there is a title track to that album. That's Thorns. It was a song that I pieced together and wrote with an acoustic on some of it. And it's kind of like our ballad, I would say. It's based on a girl who was pretty much abused in some way. And it's about somebody that brings up the past to her, and it's like thorns going through her inside of her body, and it's deep. And there's a special guest on that album. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to name yet, but I think he's already announced. Pamela Moore is going to be a duet on that from Sister Mary and Queensryche.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
No, I'm not kidding you at all. And she's amazing. Another great artist on that. And there's other artists on that album. I don't know if you've seen the lineup there. It's something, man. We got Danny Needham from Venom on drums. And man, he's just a beast of a drummer, man. I mean, like some areas of the album, I can hear like some bottom shit going on, you know, and power. And you can hear some of that power of Venom in there too. It's just probably the heaviest album Tony's done in some ways, I would say. Some of it's more towards what he comes from. There's a lot of influence. He pretty much picked the songs he wanted from me out of, I probably sent him about 100 songs, if not more.
Wow.
I'm probably undercutting, probably about 150. I write a lot, Tim. So yeah, that being said, that album's going to be based around that, but there's a lot of different elements on this album. It kind of goes back to the heavy dark area, and then also goes to about, you know, love in some areas, which love's a very metal thing. I don't know if anybody realizes that. A lot of really cool concepts on there. I think you're all going to be very pleased.
Amazing. I would just love to have
a lot to do with him, you know, how he's approached this music.
I would just love to have that Eternal Idol mood. You know what I mean? That really dark, just.
That might come on the next 4 songs we write. I'm kind of working on a few of them right now. I stayed away from, I don't think my biggest fear when I wrote with Tony Tim was, don't try to be Iommi. Don't do that, because he's done that. You know what I mean? And every time I gravitate towards that sound, it seems like that's the song. He didn't pick that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
That's why I feel.
I think that might be the great way to end.
Yeah.
You guys rock. I'm just so envious, and I'm so in love with what you brought to me tonight. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Tim. We appreciate everything you do.
Well,
absolutely.
Ditto, okay. Yeah, no, absolutely.